Today we're talking about something that most coaches miss, not because they don't know it, but because they don't emphasize it. It's not the periodization, it's not the macro split, it's not the perfect progression. It is something really simple, and that is effort. So in this episode, I'm going to break down why most clients aren't doing enough to actually adapt, how physiology backs the power of intensity, intent, and challenge, and why most elegant training programs miss this underrated concept of working hard. We'll talk about effort, but not as grinding, but as a posture of attention, and how effort, not perfection, is what moves the needle in fitness and in life. So let's get into it. All right, so today we're going to talk about, in my opinion, one of the things that is not talked about enough in coaching or in just training in general, and that is effort. The reality is that most clients don't need a better training program. They need to bring more presence, intention, and ownership to the one that they already have. And they need to do this, in my opinion, with just better effort. Okay, so I think that it's really important to understand this concept of adaptation. Okay, everything that we're doing in training hinges on adaptation, and adaptation hinges on effort. Without enough of it, the stimulus isn't enough to actually drive change. But don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about we just need to, ram our heads against the wall every training session. That's not what I mean. We just need to be intentional. And we need to understand that effort is so relative to what we're doing in front of us. Okay, so effort as it relates to growing muscle and doing a hypertrophy session is a lot different than effort hitting a 3-rep max in the back squat. Much different. Effort in an easy or base aerobic piece is a lot different than effort in a capacity building or a peak or intense aerobic or anaerobic piece. Each needs to come with a lot of effort, but effort as it's defined is just going to be a lot different based on what's in front of that person. Okay, so with that being said, coaches, we need to coach effort as much as we coach reps and sets and tempo and all of those things. All right, let's talk about what we know about effort and adaptation. Okay, and I'll be really quick and succinct here, or at least I'll try to be. We have to understand that the principle of overload is one that adaptation only occurs when stress exceeds the current capacity. Okay, so we've talked about this a lot, this whole concept of, where someone is or where their homeostatic state is. And to actually drive adaptation, we need to flirt with that, we need to push that, we need to exceed that. Okay, so we need to understand that that adaptation is only going to occur when stress exceeds the current capacity. So that's a really important principle that if we don't get anything from this conversation, just understand that. And you can create a lot of really positive change, a lot of really good change in your clients if you just understand this concept of give them just a little bit more to push them, a little bit more, not a lot, a bit more, a little bit more to push them. Okay. And we know through data that as it relates to resistance training, specifically, intensity is the strongest predictor of strength and muscle improvement. Okay. So intensity, again, going back to effort and that being relative, from a strength improvement standpoint, intensity equals load on the bar. And from a muscle building standpoint, it's how close we get to failure. Okay. So just understanding those things, I think, is really, really important. Okay, so when we start to think about specific adaptations, let me just throw a couple out there. VO2 max, mitochondrial density, hypertrophy, absolute strength, all of these require a threshold stimuli. So what I mean by that is if this is our threshold, we need to get close enough to that threshold to push that up, to push those capabilities up. Sam Smith, really good buddy of mine, colleague, he says this, I think, just so beautifully. He has this concept of we need to raise our minimums. And I think that it's so well put, right? He's not saying you need to raise your maximums. You need to raise your minimums. So what does he mean by that? He means when you go into the gym and when you're hitting an easy set of 10 on the back squat, maybe that easy set of 10 was 95 pounds a year ago. Some really, really good signs if that is 105 pounds today. You see, it's not a huge improvement, right? But what you did there was you raised that minimum. Okay, you raise the minimum in which you know that you can just go in and without thinking, just put on the bar and hit. That is a minimum. So I think that was really well said. So thanks. I'm going to borrow that one, Sam. Without intensity, okay, and I'm going to use this word very carefully because I think that everyone can take this word overboard. But without intensity, whether that's mechanical intensity, metabolic intensity, neurological intensity, there is no signal. And if there's no signal, there will be no adaptation. So we need to understand this at a principled framework level that we need effort, we need to work hard, we need to have appropriate intensity to raise minimums, to raise maximums if that's our goal, but to drive any type of adaptation, it needs to be there. All right, continuing on this idea of misrepresenting intensity, let's talk about effort versus grind. What are we actually asking for when we're asking for effort? When we're asking for effort, we're asking for presence, we're asking for intentionality, we're asking for attention, and we're not asking for maximum effort. Okay, again, I'll repeat it because I think it bears the need to be repeated. Effort is relative to what you're doing, to the task at hand. Okay, what does it mean to give great effort when you're writing a paper? Right? Like, and I wanted to use that polarized example very specifically to kind of take our mindsets out of like, effort means max effort going as hard as we can. Maybe max effort is like max focus and I'm setting my environment up so that I can be as intentful as possible. Now carry that over to doing a set of 15 on the bicep curl and carry that over for doing a tough set of 3 on the deadlift, right? So effort looks so different depending on what we're doing, but it doesn't mean that we're just grinding blindly. Okay. As we start to take this into practice, just think like reps close to failure. Okay. Sustainable fatigue in aerobic work and executing against things that challenge your current capacity. Okay. So again, if I'm doing a dumbbell RDL and I'm doing it for 12 reps, is it beneficial for me to use a weight that I can do for 22 reps? Probably not, unless I'm just like greasing the groove and warming up a little bit, right? I probably want to choose a weight that I can do for like, 13, 14, maybe even 15 reps, but I don't want to get a heck of a lot more than that, right? Because I need to get close to that threshold to drive adaptation and aerobic work. Okay. So, if I'm doing easy aerobic work, quote unquote, easy or base aerobic work, let's say, we're doing a 30-minute piece and I'm rolling. Do I want to go at a pace that I can maintain for 6 hours? No, I don't. Maybe I want to roll out a pace that I can maintain for an hour, maybe 2 hours with a gun to my head, but definitely not 6, right? That's just not going to drive any adaptation. If I'm doing 30-second intervals, do I want to go at a pace that I can maintain for 10 minutes? No. Effort, if I'm doing 30 of those, maybe I can maintain it for 2 minutes, right? So it just depends on what we're doing, okay? And we have to champion, in my opinion, the ability to be consistent as well, okay? So if going at 95% doesn't allow you to come back tomorrow and do it again, and when I say it, I don't mean the exact same thing. I just mean like to show up and move your body again tomorrow. Don't do it, right? Because now we are championing maximum effort over consistency, or that maximum effort can hinder our consistency. So you can start to really think about this, and this can start to, spark some really good conversations with your clients around why you don't want to go just, guns a-blazing on everything that you do. Because our goal, in my opinion, should be to be as consistent as possible for as long as possible. And with that in mind, we have to be here, not here. All right. Framework number 3, and our last framework, is that you need to coach effort. Okay. Teach clients how to feel intensity. And I don't care what model you use. I don't care if you use RPE, RIR, heart rate, whatever it is, subjective feelings. I don't really care. But use something that connects with your client. With that being said, you're probably going to use a bunch of different things because there's different things that are going to connect with different people. If you're working with an endurance athlete that has been tracking their heart rate for 15 years, you might want to bring heart rate in and have conversations around heart rate. Even if it's invalid in your brain around what you're trying to do, you can build some connection points there. Okay. But we need to teach clients how to feel effort, right? Like, how do you feel hard? And that is going to be so relative to what they're doing. For a beginner or for someone that doesn't move really well, high effort is really focusing on perfect technique every single rep across those 10 reps. Okay. Intensity for someone else or effort for someone else might be a pump in the muscle that they're working very specifically, taking that muscle as close to burnout as possible. For someone else, it's focus, right? It's like, I want you to focus before you get under that barbell. I want you to be locked in and engaged. Okay. Effort scales. Okay. Not everyone needs to be on the floor, but everyone needs to push whatever push really means to them. Okay. Build language around this as well. Maybe it's something like, that looked too easy. Maybe we should push next set. Or maybe put the onus on them. Just say, hey, you did 10 reps. How many reps do you think you could have done until you reach failure? And if their answer is like, well, maybe 22, it's like, okay, maybe we need to increase the load a little bit. And they're like, yeah, you're right, right? Because they told you that they could have done 12 more reps. So start to build language around what effort really looks like. Okay. And encourage self-assessment. How would you rate that on a 1 to 10 effort scale, right? Like, it's one thing to, hold someone's hand every rep, every set. Did that feel hard? Did that feel hard? But use it as an opportunity to teach them what hard should feel like, because don't take that for granted, because I know I have, right? Where it's like, we just think that people should get how hard feels because we do it and we get it. But we need to wrap whatever makes sense to them around this story of effort for them. Okay. So let's encourage those self-assessments, whatever that means, whether it's that 1 to 10 scale, or whatever questions work well for you. Putting this concept of working hard and effort into application, do everything that we just talked about, right? Like, build languages around this stuff. Make this really important to your people. We can't just sit here, and have this conversation and go back to the facility tomorrow and think that people are going to understand, you just yelling from the other side of the room, hey, let's work a little bit harder, right? Like, I believe we need to build this into kind of the foundation of how we coach people. We need to teach people effort literacy, right? Teaching clients what hard work actually feels like. Okay. And again, talking about, the transcendence of fitness and how this can go into other aspects of our lives. But I really feel that, I feel that there's a lot of wins to be had when people have the opportunity to work hard and they succeed in that hard work. So many people on a daily basis have no opportunities to work hard, or maybe they just don't ever push themselves to work hard because they don't have a reason to. So I think that we need to wrap this concept of hard work around our practice and make sure that we don't forget this, because we could write a perfect training program, but if someone doesn't go at it with a lot of effort, that training program is going to be for naught, and most people aren't going to see continued improvement in whatever it is that they're doing. Okay, so forget the perfect plan, forget the optimal training program. Just ask, is your client showing up, or are your clients showing up, and are they bringing effort? And if they're not, how can you change that? Okay, what are some strategies and tactics for you specifically to change that for your client? All right, guys, that's it for today. Let's make sure that we really take this to heart. I do think that this is a really important one, a really important concept. And for a lot of people, once they get this, it is an absolute unlock. And for us as coaches, when we get this and we coach against this, whether our program is 50% good, 80% good, or 100% good, if we can nail this for our people, those 50 and 60% good programs, we can still see a lot of really, really good success, guys. So thank you. Appreciate it. And I will see you next week.